On today's episode, I am going to be talking about perfectionism, why it is a mental spell, and how to break it. Perfectionism is a spell. That word might make you uncomfortable, depending on who you are. I don't know, but um, I am using that word for a very specific reason because it's visceral and because I know that when I say the word spell, you have an image in your mind of someone who is under the control of something. I hate to disappoint you. If you clicked on this video because you think this is going to be about magic, it is not. I'm so sorry. What we are talking about today is the power of words. If you do a little bit of research on the etymology of the word spell, it tends to denote storytelling, giving a sermon, essentially some form of saying words that have power or have impact. And so in this conversation, I'm using perfectionism as a spell, as a mental concept, actually because I want to disempower it. If you can start to think of perfectionism just as a story that you were told, then mentally all you need to do is tell yourself a new story to unlearn or forget that old story. So before we get into the how of actually to do that, I need to explain a little bit about how belief systems work.
I want to introduce you to a concept that I call your mental landscape. Okay, so think of your mind as a landscape. I want you to imagine a vast, fertile ground, and in that ground are seeds that are planted. Those seeds are your beliefs. Your beliefs, just like seeds, are planted and they grow over time. Now, because you're an adult, some of the things planted in your mental landscape have been planted by you on purpose. But at one point in time, you were a tiny little person on this planet with a tiny little mental landscape, and whoever was taking care of you was the person planting seeds in your mental landscape. So, what that means is a lot of your beliefs, they come from family, they come from culture, they come from experiences. And every single one of those seeds or beliefs determine what has been growing in your mindset. Now, just like there are different types of vegetation and flowers and trees, there are different types of beliefs too. Some of them are nourishing and provide positive, healthy beliefs to your mindset and your mental landscape, but others are like weeds and they choke out and limit growth that you want to see in your life. A limiting belief is at its root a story you were taught to tell yourself about what's possible and what to expect out of life. If you want to learn more about unlearning limiting beliefs and limiting stories, I have a free 5-day coaching course called The Confidence Code. This teaches my process of reprogramming your mind, and you can get it for free at coachbrittanynicole.com.
Okay, so a belief is a story, a spell, just a mental story, right? The longer a story has been sitting in your mind, the more true it feels. That doesn't mean that it's true. That means that it's old. That's all. And so at any point in time, once you recognize that, oh, I've been believing this because it's just what I have always been told, it's just the story that I always believed to be true, you can start to challenge that story. You can start to tell yourself a new story. So, for the rest of this conversation, we're going to be exploring perfectionism as the story that you were told about what happens when you make mistakes. Let's do a little thought experiment, okay? You ever like watch a TV show or a movie or something? Let's say it's like a romantic comedy, and you're watching the show and you're already starting to anticipate like what's going to happen. You might like there might be some little clues or something that you pick up on and you're like, "Oh, he's cheating. I already know how this story is going to end." I want you to do that for a second. I'm going to give you a part of a story and I want you to anticipate what the ending is, okay? So here's the story. You're a kid. Let's say you're like 8, 9, 10, something like that, okay? You're a kid, you're in the house, you're doing what kids do in the house, you're playing and you knock a picture frame off the wall. The picture frame falls on the ground, glass gets everywhere. What happens after that? Here's why I am telling you that story and not telling you the answer. Because I want you to consider, what is your reaction? What's your natural reaction? Was your natural reaction that your parent or guardian came to you and checked on you and made sure that you were okay and they cleaned up the mess and they were like, it's okay, man, mistakes happen, don't worry about it? Was that your reaction? Or was your reaction that you got in trouble, that you were shamed and scolded for playing in the house, that you shouldn't have made that mistake? Now, this video is not about childhood trauma, but it is about patterns. And so what we're talking about is, what is the story that you learned about what happens when you make mistakes? If you were taught from an early age that making a mistake equals punishment, that turns into a pattern of avoiding mistakes because you want to avoid punishment. In your adulthood, what that looks like is, ding, 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 perfectionism. Perfectionism at its essence is a fear of making mistakes. And if you have become afraid of making mistakes, the questions are, why and when did you become afraid of making mistakes? You develop this fear of making mistakes, and over time it becomes imprinted in your nervous system. And even as you grow up and you leave the space where you originally learned this story, other authority figures come in. It might be a boss. Now I'm afraid of making mistakes at work. It might be somebody that you're in a relationship. Now I'm afraid of making mistakes in this relationship. It even becomes so ingrained that there doesn't even need to be an authority figure. You become afraid in your own mind of making mistakes. For example, you ever feel guilty for having a to-do list that you haven't completed? Do you beat yourself up for that? That's the internal authority figure that has grown in your mental landscape, who you are now afraid of being punished by. It's automatic. It becomes an automatic behavior because a story was planted in your mind a long time ago that you've been watering and watering and watering and watering. But the great thing is, it's very easy to unlearn these types of stories. Once you identify that they exist as automatic thoughts in your mind, the only thing that you need to do is start to question it. The amazing thing about the mind is, it's so flexible and so plastic that at any moment in time, you can reprogram your mind. You can change your mind. You are a computer who is self-aware, and you can rewrite your own programs, which is amazing. The thing though is, it is challenging because the way that you perceive reality, the internal frameworks that you have built in your mind, are what tether you to your environment. They tether you to your relationships. They give you your sense of stability. Like, I know who I am. I know where I live. I know who my friends are. I know what my job is. When you start reprogramming that stuff, you can get a little foggy. Like, I thought I know who I was. I thought I knew what my environment was. I thought I knew I thought I knew my friends. Because what you're doing when you start editing your belief system is you are modifying your perception. So I say that to kind of forewarn you. If you start challenging your beliefs, expect a bit of confusion as you begin to navigate the world that you're existing in, because things are going to start looking differently. That's not something to necessarily be afraid of or concerned about. It's just, I wish somebody would have told me before I started doing it. That would have, like, anticipating the confusion that comes when you start unlearning things that you have believed for a long time is actually very helpful because then you can prepare for it. I talk about this in a previous video, which is about how awkwardness equals confidence. And the point of that video was that whenever you're trying to learn something, you really have to give yourself permission to be awkward before you can be confident, because confidence equals experience. If I want to be confident at running a business, I can't be confident at running a business when I first start it. I can become confident. Confident? What is that? I can become confident after I've gained experience, after I've failed, after I've learned, after I've had some successes and some wins. So, part of the reason why perfectionism is an unfair standard is because it omits making mistakes as something that should happen in the learning process. When you are learning, you have to make mistakes. And you need to recondition yourself to understand that mistakes are not bad. Mistakes are healthy and a requirement as a part of learning anything new. If you don't ever want to learn anything new, you ain't got to make no mistakes. You can continue doing what you've been doing every single day and what you hate doing and what is deeply unsatisfying and mediocre. If that's the life that you want to live, that's fine. That's a choice. No shame and no shade. I really think that if you desire to be mediocre and you desire to live a life that is only medium satisfying, you can do that. But I don't think that that's the way you feel if you're watching this video. You don't want a medium satisfying life. You want a deeply satisfying life, which means you're going to have to get comfortable with learning things and being awkward and making mistakes. And so long as the story that you have in your mind is that I must be perfect, then you won't accomplish the things that you are here to accomplish. You won't be able to bring your passions and your purpose forward. You will not be able to share your medicine and your gifts with the world because you're not going to give yourself the opportunity to get good at what it is you need to get good at. You got to let that perfectionism story go. It's holding you back. All right, so here's your homework. And I'm giving you two flavors of this. You can do this the old school way, or you can do it the 2025 way and 10x your results. Okay, so we're going to start challenging our beliefs around perfectionism with journaling, with self reflective journaling prompts, and I'm giving you four of them. They are: what's the first memory you have of making a mistake? Number two, who taught you that mistakes were unacceptable? Number three, what's that person's relationship like with mistakes? Did they allow themselves to make mistakes, or do they expect themselves to be perfect? And number four, how does the pattern show up in your life today? The extra credit version of this exercise: you're going to input this prompt into ChatGPT. I want to explore my relationship with mistakes and perfectionism. Please guide me through a reflective journaling process. Ask me the following questions one by one, allowing me to answer each before moving to the next, and then the four questions. After I answer all the questions, analyze my responses and reflect them back to me. Identify any patterns, recurring themes, or limiting beliefs I may not have noticed. The reason that these journal prompts are effective is because it allows you to look at when the pattern originated for you, who taught you the pattern, and their relationship with the pattern, and your current relationship with the pattern. This gives you the vantage point of being able to see the impact of this story. And being able to see the impact of this story allows you to decide, do I want to continue this? Choose whichever way you want to do the homework. But I'm an AI girl myself. I would say pop this prompt into ChatGPT and spend this time getting to know this pattern. You will not have the same relationship with perfectionism afterward. Either way that you approach this work, the final step is to dignify whatever comes up for you. And when I say dignify, what I mean is, anytime you do any self-reflective work, whatever style it is, feelings come up. You may feel sad, you may feel angry, you may feel grief, you may feel like, damn, I really lost out on the ability to have the kind of upbringing that would allow me to have been more whole, more than likely this is going to bring up feelings of frustration and of grief. And the worst thing that you could possibly do is not allow yourself to have those feelings. You got to sit with it. That's the other part that's going to be uncomfortable about this process, is just accepting, damn, that happened. Damn, this is how I really feel. Damn, this sucks. Like, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to know that I've been carrying this. But that grief and acceptance process is a really, really strong beginning to priming your mental landscape for new beliefs. You can't put new beliefs on top of garbage beliefs that have been sitting in your mind for years, decades, even. You have to kind of till the soil of your mind and just let it breathe. So do not forget the let it breathe part. Let yourself grieve. Let yourself have whatever emotions come up after you do this work. I always recommend using your body to move the emotions out, whether that is going for a walk or going for a workout or doing some breath work. That your emotions are chemical reactions. Those are that it's energy in your body. And don't just let it come up and then try to stifle it back down. Do something with it. Do something creative with it. Do something physical with it. But just have the feelings. Allow yourself to have them. I really love this tie. I This is such a cute tie. Um Sorry, I'm getting distracted by pretty things. What did we learn today, class? We learned that perfectionism, while it might feel anchored and permanent, it's nothing but a story. It's nothing but a story, and stories can be undone and stories can be retold. So, to unlearn the story of perfectionism, which is essentially that it is not okay to make mistakes, you're going to examine your relationship with mistakes using the prompts that I've given you. You can either write them or you can 10x your progress and use the prompt in ChatGPT. I am including it in the description below. You can just copy it and paste it into ChatGPT and have at it, okay? The last thing I want to say is this. I have created a completely free coaching course called The Confidence Code. It takes you through the process of reprogramming your mindset step by step. And you can get your access to that at coachbrittanynicole.com. It is a fantastic, easy to do course. You get just a short video and a workbook each day. Very, very simple, very, very impactful. All right, that's all I got for you today. If you enjoyed this material, let me know in the comments below. If you have any other topics that you want me to cover, I'm curious to hear that. You can share that in the comments too. Thank you again for watching another episode of Self Love School, and I will see you next time.